Genshin Impact. Start the Sand Sea and go straight to the God Seat introduction. Meet the god of crossing, Rama, who was happily arrived in the world of Genshin Impact and became a child adopted by desert tribes. Among the many beginnings, he stumbled upon a tragic start second only to Inami, the desert man, during the eye hunting period. There is no place for desert people to survive in this era, but there is a future where someone will bring hope. When looking back at the Kawan Post, Romo shook his head as he returned to the desert with his caravan. Yes, hope lies in the future, but I cannot place it on anyone else besides myself. The beginning of desert people. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The sand and gravel that covered the sky rose high, and a group of desert people wearing red scarves drove camel beasts forward. A young man named Rama sat on the camel beast and led the entire caravan towards the Kawan Post. This is not possible. He sat on the camel beast and turned his head to look at the tribe behind him, with a hint of sadness in his eyebrows. From the appearance alone, it is evident that Moro is not a Sumeru person, and his facial features are more inclined towards the distant Liyue or Aina wife. This is the 16th year that Rama came to the Genshin Impact world. He was adopted by the Tanite tribe in the desert, and then belonged to the desert people. The way tribes gather is usually based on blood ties as the key to maintaining everything, and Rama is clearly an outsider. Just by looking at his face, you can tell that he is not a Sumeru person at all. Although there were also bonuses cultivated from a young age, Roma did not gain more trust from the tribe. Of course, the tribe will not suspect him either. Because Romo is an outstanding scholar. In this desert land, an outstanding scholar is also a precious resource. Desert dwellers have no access to formal educational resources, nor do they have a suitable educational environment to support them. Even some books need to be smuggled in order to be obtained. In other words, hundreds of years since the death of King Chi, the technology tree in this land of yellow sand has not regressed, but directly collapsed. With the fall of technology trees and inheritance, the lives of desert people have also plummeted. It is natural for the technological decline of the Red King. It is not an exaggeration to say that even today, hundreds of years after the death of King Akira, Akira's technology is truly too advanced. This is entirely based on taboo knowledge and the taboo path of this Red Sand King. When the Red King dies, the collapse of the technology tree is completely natural. The current situation of the desert people is partly due to the sudden whims of the Red King and his sudden death, while the other half is attributed to the master of Sumeru. The desert is just a vassal of the rainforest. Romo reached out and kneaded his earlobe, his expression gradually calming down. When he first crossed over, he also thought about many things. Of course, the most direct ones were just girls and strength. A very objective question. In the long history of Blue Star, most powerful individuals have been pursuing the same thing. Longevity. After the rise of the technology tree, people gradually recognized that there may be immortality in this world, but it is not something that can be traced back now. But in the world of Genshin Impact, immortality dare not say that there is indeed an opportunity for longevity. But Romo soon realized something was wrong. His birthplace was in the desert. In the story revealed by Genshin Impact, the desert is the starting point, and its difficulty is only second to that of the rice wife whose eye hunting order is officially implemented. According to the timeline understood by Romo, the current wind demon dragon is still sleeping in the dragon nest, and the eye hunting order has not yet been implemented. That is to say, the desert is the worst starting point. Knowledge is valuable, and scholars walking in the desert are not even allowed to impart knowledge without permission. This is something that is truly recorded in the plot. In reality, Romo gained more understanding. Red King really left a pile of mess behind. He shook his head, his voice almost imperceptible. Only the hunter following the camel beast was suddenly startled. She looked around and instinctively placed her finger on the bowstring. For spirit wind hunters, all they believe in is the long bow in their hands and the spirit of Aaron residing within it. The latter is usually more threatening than her archery. Don't be nervous, Tadra. Romo jumped down, no one will know. Are you saying that everyone accompanying you is absolutely trustworthy? The hunter's movements were minimal and did not disturb anyone. Trust between tribes is a necessary quality for survival in this land of red sand. Even our peers are no longer worthy of trust, and everyone's living space will only become even thinner. But as an archer who inherits the fate of a hunter and has a mission to hunt traitors, he does not trust his comrades as much as ordinary tribal people do. She killed too many people who betrayed the tribe. No, I mean, only you will hear this sentence. Romo shook his head. Sir, you can't say that. With pursed lips, the hunter named Tadra lowered his cheek and instinctively reached out to block one side of his cheek. The well-trained hunter has a tall and slender figure, with only a few scars on his exposed skin. Especially on the cheek, a newly added knife scar has just healed, and the scar is somewhat grim. Hunting is never a heartwarming game, and when you want to kill your prey, they never give up. Being counterattacked is just the norm. Even if one is counter-hunted, it can still happen within the tribe. Even falcons cannot bring back prey from every hunt. Romo opened Tadra's palm and looked at the woman's cheek. This was a somewhat intimate gesture, but his words were not gentle. Isn't this what Marcella wants to see? Yu reading www.uukangshu.net, he whispered, if I marry and have children in the tribe, he has the confidence to completely restrain me. Falcons do not protect humans. Her job is hunting, not protecting. A very simple truth is, how can you believe that a person will not betray? It's better to directly grasp their handle and make them dare not betray. You believe he won't, you know he can't. These are two situations. Of course, this is not a bad thing, is it? Romo was not angry. If I have loyalty to the tribe, then this matter is that he has sent me a beautiful and capable girl and will also help me rise to power. I have no reason to refuse. Romo knew Tadra's purpose, but he wasn't angry. The quality of a thing often depends on where the person's buttocks are sitting. If you are loyal to the tribe, then Marcel's behavior is a very common thing for elders to do. Advise young people to get married and have children near their hometown. If there is no loyalty to the tribe, then this behavior is better understood. He wants to use his wife and children to restrain you. How to understand, it's purely personal. Romo is the former. The desert man had a bad start, but Tanit gave him a chance to survive. The problem with a bad start was not brought about by Tanit, but by the environment of Sumeru, the oppression of the rainforest people, and the operation of a group of dog thieves in the command center. Grace needs to be repaid, hatred should be repaid with blood. This is the simplest truth. Romo recognized this principle, so what he wanted to do was to try to lead the Tanit tribe back to the period when the Red King still ruled the land. At least, let the desert people see hope and the future. 2. Light and Heat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You all know. Tadra pursed her lips. Falcons are creatures that are not allowed to have emotions. They live to hunt for the tribe, and emotions have always been a burden for these desperate assassins. I shouldn't know. Romo smiled and said, don't worry, Elder Marcella is willing to give me his little falcon, it's my luck. A tribe that maintains its ethnic group through blood ties does not have a trusted wife, and Rama is always an outsider to the tribe. He grew up in the Sand Sea and also accepted this value system. I'm sorry, the hunter sighed with a hint of sadness on his face. I didn't want to do this. Since Rama first revealed his value, Tadra has been by his side. This is the importance that ethnic groups attach. After all, a scholar belonging to a tribe is truly a precious resource. Romo can replicate many technologies in the rainforest and even study the heritage of the Red King. This ability can be cultivated in an environment like the desert, and the Tanit tribe naturally needs to protect it. It's both protection and surveillance. This period of time is not short, and the falcon is not truly devoid of emotions. People's positions are different. Romo waved his hand. I know your awkwardness and difficulties, but you really don't have to worry about it, because I won't go against the tribe. Actually, Elder Marcella doesn't want you to come to Kawan Post. This matter was insisted on by Elder Babel. As if out of guilt, Tadra still revealed a message. I understand, Romo smiled. Kawanyi is the dividing line of this world, and anyone who goes further will not want to return to a world outside of this line. Kawanyi has many uses, but for desert people, its only value is as a trading place. The sand barrier separates two worlds, and a group of 30 people hunt desert people who want to enter the rainforest without permission. But as long as they live in the rainforest for a period of time, few people are willing to return to the desert to live. Because the living environment in the sand sea is indeed very poor, very poor. That's what the tribe is worried about. They were worried that after seeing the bustling side of the world, Romo would develop a dislike for the desert's living environment and not return to the desert. They knew about Romo's abilities and believed that the other party was fully qualified to establish themselves in the Order Academy. Many people think they can tolerate harsh environments because they have never seen the light before, and it is not worth what is good. Once they see the true light and fire, they can no longer accept the darkness they have become accustomed to. The elders were well aware of this and were unable to provide light and fire, so they prohibited people from peeping at the light. Romo can understand. Not looking is like nothing exists. This is not ignorance of concealing one's ears and stealing bells, but compassion and kindness after being powerless. It's like seeing a kitten. If you can't give it a new life from the beginning, then at the beginning, you shouldn't have reached out your hand. For a long time, the desert was not without any heroes and scholars. They just didn't stay in the desert. Roma spoke calmly. They chose the path of light, as we all know. They also abandoned the desert. Tadra shook her head. She has no hatred or contempt. Tadra has visited Kawan Post and also saw the scenery behind the sand barrier. It is not a shocking thing for anyone to choose to abandon the desert and venture into the rainforest. Someone abandoned their impoverished hometown, but I hope to help them get rid of poverty. Romo's smile was gentle. I really hope I can do it. When he said these words, he looked into the distance. Tadra remained silent. The falcon really hopes that Romo can do it, but this desert has been like this for 500 years. Is this really a problem that someone's effort and talent can solve? She didn't know that Rama, who was looking from afar, was not looking at the Kawan Post, but at a semi-transparent interface that only he could see. Host. Rama, occupation. Genshin Impact, scholar, alchemist, elemental power. LV47642/10000, you have become a strong person among mortals, but as you know, there are gods in this world. Learning. LV49987/10000, you have become accustomed to high-intensity learning and can quickly master most skills. Mechanical. Incomplete. LV37903/10000, the desert does not have suitable soil for you to learn, except for Chiwang technology, but you cannot touch its reality. Note. The use of elemental studies has filled some of the gaps in Chiwang technology, but due to the lack of crucial taboo knowledge, it is not possible to replicate higher-level Chiwang technology. Let's change it. Ordinary mechanics are actually pretty good. Biology. LV37794/10000, you are already facing a real choice, and if you don't give up on indifferent kindness, long-term training will be your only path. Alchemy. LV3337/10000, what you need is not to forcefully break through after repeated training, you should find a teacher, or at least obtain enough academic materials. This is not a deep blue dotted golden finger, but a special panel of the Heavenly Way rewards diligence category. As long as you exercise repeatedly, you can acquire further knowledge and skills. This ability is also illegal. If you work hard, there will definitely be rewards. The master of this world should not be a demon god, at least Babados should obviously be kicked down. The human body has its limits, and correspondingly, the demon gods that will be worn and eroded also have their limits. But Romo has no limits. Zhaozhuiyuan.com. It is already difficult to obtain ordinary books in the desert environment, and as for alchemy, learning this thing is useless. The work of ordinary alchemists is basically completed by relying on the alchemy synthesis table. In other words, they are pendants, and the synthesis table is the real work. And true alchemy masters are really rare, even rare. Alchemy is the true pyramid structure, with a group of pendants underneath. Even if the masters teach in person, they are like listening to the heavenly book. Obito's 2 students deeply revealed the talent requirements of this sinkhole profession. The scumbag below, while the big shot at the top constantly thinks about how to crush the demon god. Obito's teacher Riendote created a black disaster that swept the world, and every country was paying for it. The demon of Inami, the immortals of Liyue, and the knights of the Mon generation almost all suffered losses as a result. In addition, the poison dragon Duran she made is a strong resistance to the Tualan with the blessing of Babados. Even if it ultimately fails, Tualan is now plagued by poisonous blood and has not been able to escape. And Kelly's mother Alice is also a strong background board, she can even leave Tivit and travel to another world. Romo didn't have such an environment, so he relied on a portion of his alchemy knowledge in his hands and repeatedly upgraded to LV3. He has the desire and ability to learn and pursue further education, but the desert environment does not provide him with these at all. Romo was not completely without ambition, he just knew that when he couldn't do anything and his abilities couldn't support his ambitions, he could only temporarily sink down and polish his abilities. And now, what supports his ambition is the upcoming advancement in mechanics and elemental power. 3-to-1 opportunity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kawanyi is a place where the desert and rainforest exchange supplies. Or to put it more accurately, this is the place where rainforests harvest deserts. Moro curiously surveyed the surrounding environment. What games can present is only a part, and only through personal experience can we discover the vastness here. But he quickly restrained his gaze and continued to lead the caravan forward. Many people also saw this caravan, looked around, shook their heads, and shifted their gaze away. Don't expect too much from desert merchants. The caravans in the desert are mostly operated by the Gilded Brigade. You either directly support them or hire these people as bodyguards. These people put away their weapons as merchants, and pull out their knives as robbers and robbers. If you don't hire them as bodyguards, they will immediately become bandits, and there is no gold-plated brigade as a guarantee in the desert. All you encounter along the way will be bandits. They could tell at a glance that the Moro caravan was from the same group as them, not the kind of caravan operated by rainforesters. Dealing with such people, regardless of whether they have money or not, the cost alone is very expensive. The desert and rainforest are the only ones that can bear the responsibility of trading, such as Kawanyi and Aru village, as well as the further port of Amos. Because trading requires a peaceful environment, but the Gilded Brigade is rampant in the desert, and they won't be able to reason. The business of thieves emphasizes one thing that I want, but I don't want to give money. Anyone who cooperates with them needs an environment that can maintain peaceful transactions. If the trading party does not reason, the other party will resist trading with the other party. In this case, a person with strong power is needed to make everyone in the transaction reason, so as to maintain the entire trading environment. There is Candice in Aru village. In the game, she is only a 4-star, but in her personal story, Candice is almost the key to maintaining peace in Aru village. The desert people even claim that she can control the power of sandstorms and is the true son of the Red King. Although this is false, this woman is indeed capable of fighting. But being able to fight alone is of no use, Aru village cannot afford it, and they are also unwilling to undertake large-scale transactions. Just like Kawanyi, if it undertakes the entire desert's commerce, Candice cannot sustain this link. She was able to protect Aru village not because her military strength had reached such a point, but because the value of the village was limited, and there was also the support of the Order Academy behind it. That place can only carry a small number of merchants, and it is Kawan that truly bears the core of trade. Because the background of Kawan is tough and its fists are even harder. The 30-man regiment is responsible for maintaining the trade environment of Kawan, and behind it lies the Order Academy. The powerful maintain the peace of this environment, which has attracted the gathering of various caravans. But one thing is, peace and fairness are not the same thing. If one believes that this trade is profitable for desert people due to the violent behavior of the Gilded Brigade, then it is a big mistake. Both parties in the trade may incur losses, but the business done on the owner's territory will not be at a loss to the owner. The person who can make decisions in this caravan is not Romo, he just comes along to take a look at the world outside the desert, and there is another person who can truly make transactions. The tribal appointed supervisor skillfully led the caravan into a tavern and then disbanded it on the spot. The warriors of the tribe sat in the tavern, while the supervisor searched for suitable merchants to conduct transactions. "Let's go, haven't you always wanted to come and take a look at this place?" Tadra is the only person who has not relaxed. Among the entire caravan, only Rama cannot be lost, and the rest is not important enough. Let's first get in touch with the local underground chambers of commerce and see if we can find some useful prohibited items. Romo's expression was positive. What he wants is actually very simple, just some slightly more advanced knowledge. But Sumeru is a unique country. The Ministry of Education utilizes canned knowledge and the void system to control the knowledge of the entire country. They strictly prohibit the circulation of knowledge outside the Ministry of Education, and even ordinary canned knowledge will be investigated by disciplinary officers. Knowledge is indeed expensive and should be carefully stored. But the action of the Order Academy is not to preserve knowledge, but to prohibit the flow of knowledge and control its dissemination. They imprison knowledge within the command center, and the only way anyone wants to touch knowledge is to join the order of the command center and then work hard for it. Don't think that working hard is a terrible job. With the attitude of the rainforest people towards desert people, if you want to work hard for them, the people of the church must consider whether you are qualified or not. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible for a region to have not produced a cluster of flames for 500 years. The desert did indeed have to become a vassal of the rainforest due to the loss of the Red King, but it was just a vassal, not a primitive person who needed to start over and develop again. And with the birth of writing and the improvement of papermaking technology, there is always a way to spread knowledge. But the fact is, this place can't develop at all. Romo's expression was calm. If an animal doesn't gain weight just by eating, there must be parasites in its stomach. If the people are hardworking but unable to become rich, there must be vampires in that society. This principle may not solve all problems, but it is applicable to desert people. The rainforest man got stuck in the neck of the desert people. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Science, technology, and knowledge cannot change the fate of desert people, because as long as I dare to take it out, I will become a corpse. The reason for poverty is not people's ignorance and ignorance, but the desire to create ignorance and ignorance through power. The only way to face power is through armed struggle. They are unreasonable, only by hurting them can they qualify for the negotiation table, and winning them can they have the ability to change the fate of the desert. Romo's expression became increasingly serious. A large part of the situation in the desert is due to the operation of the command center, while another part is because everyone has never taken the interests of the desert to heart. They did not realize that poverty was not because they were born in the desert, but because of factors outside the desert. Each fighting on their own, relying on their own tribe as a survival unit, all but their own tribe are enemies. Strictly speaking, this is the most primitive ruling environment. And next it is necessary to give birth to a heavenly born man from a certain tribe, who will lead his own tribe, fight against other tribes, and integrate the desert people into a whole. This has been done by predecessors, but the desert does not have this environment. The chaotic desert is in the interest of the church. The ancient grasslands can be gradually integrated because there is basically no way for the Central Plains to capture the exotic tribes on the grasslands. Throughout history, defense has been the mainstream and there have been very few shots played. If you can't touch someone, let alone stop them from doing something. But the Order Academy has a team of 30, and its cornerstone is the Desert People. To deal with the Desert People, the predecessors of the Order Academy have been in operation for too long. We need an opportunity to solve all the problems. 4. Businessmen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Smuggling business is not very easy to do. But if there is enough profit in a business, someone will definitely do it. The people engaged in this work in Kawan are not just smugglers who come and go. In fact, Shimi's current regular army of 30 people may be the true leader of these businesses. They maintain the peace of the entire trading environment, which attracts merchants to come and go here. But Sumi is not theirs. The cornerstone of the 30-man regiment is also the Desert People. They defected to the church early on, and contemporary sages saw a path to balance the Desert People with the Desert People, so they gladly accepted these Desert People. Nevertheless, the views of the diocese on the 30-man regiment are relatively average. In the future, this kind of harsh treatment. At least the managers of the 30-member team believe it is harsh treatment and has also led to the betrayal it deserves. The great sage was arrested by his subordinate, the Great Wind Discipline Officer, at his home Wisdom Palace. To be honest, it sounds quite comical. And the plot is described clearly enough. The management of the 30-man group abandoned the interests of the wise men and chose to pretend to be deaf and mute, as they were unwilling to provide better treatment. This gave a group of mercenaries in the desert a chance to confront them directly. That's the attitude of the diocese. Shimi is not a member of the 30-people group. Smuggling harms the interests of the Shimi official or the Order Academy. But the group of 30 who run the smuggling business will only make a lot of money from it. What are the losses of the Order Academy? What does this have to do with me? It is precisely because of the escort of the 30-person group that the business of Kawan can be carried out. Tadra skillfully pulled Romo to find a hidden place. Not all transactions can be put on the surface, these dark transactions are also the core business of the entire Kawan. Romo looked around at the business people. Objectively speaking, none of these people seem to be doing business. Their bare arms are muscular and sturdy, with their right hand kept under their white robe, holding a curved knife at their waist. Compared to business people, they are obviously more enthusiastic about their job. Romo didn't look around too much, he quickly found a very familiar figure. Although he had never seen each other since his travels. Dali Sanjamahabai. Oh, is the customer interested in any goods? Just take a look, I have plenty of good things here. As a businessman, she really put the word rich on her face. The clothes on this body are adorned with multiple brilliant gemstones, and such a big businessman should obviously not appear in such a place. But Dali is such a businessman. Her business is spread throughout Sumeru and she possesses immense wealth. Nevertheless, she still enjoys going to various places in Sumeru to personally promote her treasures. She likes Mora and also enjoys the process of earning Mora. Ramo, Tadra's expression tightened, this is. Unknown merchant, little falcon, said Romo with a smile. We have never been to this place before, and of course we cannot meet anyone here, can we? The guest statement makes sense, but the prerequisite is that all the Mora needs to be paid here. Dali also smiled along. Some businesses can be done, but after everyone leaves, it's best to treat them as if they've never seen each other before. Of course, the premise is that both money and goods are cleared. If you want to clear the money, you need to see if you can do this kind of thing. Tadra's face returned to calm. This is another small deviation between game and reality. Dali's caravan is spread throughout Sumeru, and desert people have always had to face two problems. How to make money and how to spend money. There is no need to mention the matter of making money. For the people in these deserts, the only way to make money is through hunting. Hunting sandworms to make high-end essential oils, travel to other places to hunt caravans and directly obtain goods for personal use or resale. These things can make money, but how to spend money is a big problem. There are few caravans deep in the sand sea. Basically, it can be said that the farthest distance that a normal caravan can travel is in a Ru village. Going further into the depths of the desert, there are no merchants considering continuing to venture. Continuing inside, everyone knows that there are more bandits inside, and it's not even a place for business. You can't talk to a group of bandits who rely on hunting for a living, almost only on plundering to make a living, about the principles of peaceful trade. So the question arises, Mora, you got it, but how do you spend it? There must be something for you to buy before you can spend money, right? Generally speaking, Kawan is the place where the wealth of desert people is harvested. Desert people bring their accumulated wealth and supplies to Kawan to exchange for another type of material, and finally bring it back to the tribe to maintain its development and survival. But there are also some caravans who will arrive at the tribe first and then take their belongings from the tribe people. Dali's caravan is a group of merchants who prioritize their interests over risks. It is difficult for desert people not to maintain respect for such merchants. They not only have the fist to trade with you without fear of risk, but also can indeed use relatively suitable chips to trade with you. Zhaoshuyuan.com. So you should naturally respect such businessmen. If it were a different scenario, Romo would have many ideas to make a deal with this businessman. This is a big businessman who knows how to do business and already has enough capital. She can influence the world in many places. This is her value. But today he didn't say anything, just selecting certain prohibited items and special alchemy creations placed on the street stall. Because Romo was not qualified enough to influence the will of this great businessman, he could only give advice to the other party, but that was far from enough. The core of doing business is equality. You either have the technology or the funds, and of course, relying solely on one mouth is not impossible. Is business like drawing big cakes? As long as the pie you draw can attract investors, then of course it is also feasible. Romo had confidence in convincing Dali, but not today. Without a sufficiently stable foundation and powerful forces, his cooperation with the other party will always be at a disadvantage. This is not the best-case scenario. If you want to gain some knowledge, I suggest customers purchase these canned knowledge. Dali gave advice. In this way, customers can grasp these things faster. Her suggestion was not well-intentioned, purely for the sake of Mora. Although paper books are expensive, they are definitely not more expensive than canned knowledge. And Dali is not unaware of the cost of long-term use of canned knowledge. But what does it have to do with her? She doesn't know how to use it. She is just a businessman, ensuring the quality of goods is already her biggest bottom line. There is no need to care about the situation of customers. The power of wealth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Canning knowledge can help you quickly master these knowledge. These are treasures produced by the Teaching Academy, and their quality is trustworthy. The small businessman has a friendly smile. Objectively speaking, canned knowledge is indeed a great invention. With the help of the Void Terminal, people can easily store knowledge and directly infuse it into the brain. So, what's the cost? Romo asked. There's no cost, after all, the church has been using these things for so many years, Dali replied with a sincere answer. The church is looking for canned knowledge circulating without the permission of the church, not canned knowledge itself. The same kind of knowledge, but with the permission of the church, can be legally traded. The Ministry of Education does not allow it, it is a prohibited item that needs to be wanted. Dali did not lie. She gave a reasonable but incorrect answer to the fact that she was using canned knowledge in the teaching institute herself. There was no cost. After all, those who propose a technology are also willing to use it themselves, so others will naturally believe that canned knowledge is harmless. They also used it themselves, didn't they? Never mind, Romo shook his head. Although it's tempting, canned knowledge is much more expensive than books. I'll take it back and study it myself. No, that's what you said, but you actually didn't want canned knowledge from the beginning, did you? Dolly blinked her eyes and asked with interest, bring it back for research. She glanced at the order that Romo had taken out. For those who come out to do business, Dolly certainly cannot carry all the goods with her. She accepts bookings, and no matter where the other party is, as long as they can take out the mora, she will definitely bring the goods to its owner. Dolly did not study at the command center, but this did not hinder her understanding of the goods. Are you a scholar? Her gaze paused briefly on Tadra before turning to Romo. In the land of Sumeru, only the Ministry of Education produces resources such as scholars. But Romo was accompanied by an obvious desert resident, who was clearly not the kind of hunting dog that had already been recruited by the 30. A scholar of the desert people themselves. Researching something useless, Romo shook his head. No problem, I can get all these things, but the price may be a bit expensive. Dolly didn't ask further. The guest's secret is their own business, and the merchant only needs the mora in his pocket, without caring about the guest's own secret. Of course, if secrets can bring benefits, it's not impossible to be cautious. But the secret on this side of the desert. Besides the inheritance of the Red King, can these desert people have any other secrets? Dolly is also very interested in Chiwang technology, and because she wants to explore Chiwang's heritage, she knows more about it. The inheritance of the Red King will not bless the people of the Red King. This King of Red Sands has indeed left many traces in the vast desert, but he does not care about his people. No problem, please deliver it to the Tanit tribe, and the tribe will pay this bill. Moro stood up and left. Dolly's answer made him more aware of the reality of this world. It is obvious that this wealthy businessman from Sumeru could not have been unaware of the cost of canned knowledge. But she never mentioned it because canned knowledge is also her product. Merchants will not mention defects in their products, they will only cover a fatal flaw with a casual tone. When you want to pursue it later, she will innocently remind me that she mentioned it, but you just didn't notice. Obviously, Dolly is also such a businessman. She will show the sincerity of a businessman in front of someone in the future, but in front of more people, she is just a businessman. When business people do business, they only need to care about the business itself. After Romo left, Dolly stretched lazily. Okay, let's take a look in the desert sometime next day. She was a bit curious, although not many, since it seemed like there was a business opportunity, she might as well go and take a look. Anyway, it's on the way. Dolly's subordinates have caravans traveling to and from the desert. She only needs to go with the caravan to see if there are any business opportunities. On the other side, Romo restrained his expression. This is an unexpected joy. Objectively speaking, the value of this knowledge is very limited. The knowledge of LV3 is different from the elemental forces of LV4. The fourth level of elemental power is actually sufficient in the mortal realm, but there are gods in this world. When gods exist, the level calculated only among mortals is not enough. But the knowledge of the third level has actually reached the upper limit of mortals. If we continue to move forward, it will no longer belong to human technology and will need to be mixed with some special things. The cornerstone of technology is energy, and the technology tree cultivated by Romo is the most orthodox element technology tree of Tivit. Because the energy required for the machinery he built is elemental force. But elemental force is not Tivit's optimal solution. This world has revealed more peculiar powers, but elemental power does not rank among them. Are these enough? Tadra asked in a low voice. That's enough, Luomo nodded. If you really want to make a breakthrough in a short period of time, the only way is to enter the Wisdom Palace. The current situation is already sufficient. Buying a book is just a cover. With his current level of knowledge, if he wants to rely on books to gain inspiration and breakthroughs, he either needs to measure it or find works by masters like Abido. The dozens of books bought through smuggling can only be said to have limited value. What Rama values is another part. He was dismantling the alchemy products sold by Dolly with one hand, occasionally frowning. Dolly started her life with Alice. One day, she found a magic lamp in the Masua warehouse and met Alice. The specific process is irrelevant, it's just that the mother saw a pitiful little girl of similar age as her own daughter and felt compassion in her heart, so she extended a helping hand. Ordinary people can only give some food, but Alice is not considered an ordinary person. She casually took out some alchemy products, which were the best-selling products on the entire market. Next, as long as you encounter a suitable businessman, you can maximize the value of the product. Dolly is this qualified businessman. It's not that this girl only has luck on her body. If she has something, she can make a fortune. It's just that she thinks business is too simple. She had her own abilities and ran into alchemists like Alice. It can only be said that her luck had also come, so after years of management, she became a leading businessman in Sumeru. During the process of dismantling, Rama's alchemy experience began to increase. After a while, he shook his head and said, "She's really in the wrong place." Tadra has some doubts. If it's Li Yu, wealth can bring power, because Li Yu's 7 stars are the 7 most capable businessmen in business. But this is Sumi. The power of wealth can only remain silent and low-key in front of the church. Because they are really unreasonable. 6. Business related. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rama has 2 purposes. The first one is to purchase alchemy products and books, slightly filling in experience points. The second one is even simpler, he wants to meet someone by chance. Dixia. Of course, Dixia is very important, and the other woman who has already made a contract with her during this period is even more important. Dina Zidai, the eldest lady of the Humei family. If my gaze follows the screen, I probably won't have the chance to realize the value of Mora in my lifetime. But wealth will never be without value. Especially after staying in the land of Qi Sha for a long time, Rama dared not underestimate the power of wealth. In addition, the value of Dinazidai is far more than just Mora. She is one of the few people who has long received the gaze of the gods. At this moment, the little lucky grass king is still imprisoned in the pure good palace, his gaze and consciousness wandering on the vast land of Shimi, just like a king patrolling his own land. However, his body was imprisoned within a square inch and could never break free. The little grass king pays attention to the people of Sumeru, but after all, the gods are not omnipotent, and there are very few people who can maintain their attention for a long time. Dinazidai happens to be one of them. The deity is obviously not a life form without emotional bias, and between Dinazida and any ordinary submission, Naxida's choice would be this girl. Because he had already quietly accompanied the girl's growth during Dinazida's childhood. Magic scale disease will be the greatest pain for a girl, and it will also be her unique luck throughout her life. As a deity, Naxida's sense of responsibility is too strong. This disease, originating from the erosion of the world tree, is seen by he as a disaster caused by his own incompetence, so he pays attention to these children who have suffered greatly due to scale disease. Objectively speaking, pain is never worth expecting, but being able to exchange it for divine annotations is not so easy to calculate. At present, Dinazidai is one of the few believers in Sumi who regards the little lucky grass king as the god of grass, rather than the deceased great compassion tree king. Dixia is not a springboard either, she is someone she can fight for. And Dinazidai is even more so. Unfortunately, it is obvious that one thing cannot be perfect. Romo's 2 goals, the former's earnings exceeded expectations, and he met Dolly, who, with her persistence towards Mora, did not mind setting off in person after the transaction. And as long as it brings enough shock to her within the Tanit tribe, her wealth can also become the cornerstone of her rule. A good businessman is often a big gambler, and they are not reluctant to gamble in the game of fate. As long as you can show them the hope of making money. The latter has no benefits at all. This is also normal. At this moment, the mercenary group of the Radiant Beast should be enjoying the high employment costs of the Humei family, and Dixia has become Dinazidai's personal bodyguard directly due to her father Kyuzura's kindness. It's obvious that you don't have this kind of luck to meet Dixia in such a place. Romo was not disappointed. Because these two people are really easy to compete for. Like Dolly, as long as she can come up with enough chips, the first meeting is enough to turn the other person into her own. The chips are in hand, and the time of meeting is not important. Even if Huang Mao, who was searching for blue question marks all over the world, suddenly killed Sumi, she had no room to play. During this period, Sumi had no problems. If Ingmei cannot solve the problem, then the chips needed by these two people will never change. Tadra didn't understand Romo's thoughts, she just watched him turn around and leave, so she followed quickly. The two of them returned to the temporary residence of the caravan, and before they could even step out, they heard a special greeting from the desert. Romo raised his eyebrows and placed the half-disassembled alchemy mechanism in his sleeve. That's too much. These merchants are simply deceiving others too much. The strong man in a white robe had a cold gaze and said, "It's best for them not to step into the sand sea for the rest of their lives." 2 sentences solved all the doubts. This is not a complex problem. Business, asking exorbitant prices, paying back on the ground. As for whether the price you ask can be approved, and whether you accept the price returned by the other party, it depends on your abilities. But this is a regular transaction. The transactions at Kawanyi and Alma's port share a common characteristic. For desert people, the trading environment here is peaceful but unfair. Romo, you're back. The strong man quickly restrained his expression when he saw Tadra and the boy. Did you have any satisfactory gains? Of course, Romo nodded, but it's you, Asarid, isn't the transaction going smoothly? It's going very smoothly, Asalik shook his head. Everything that needs to be sold and acquired has already been resolved. The resolution of a problem does not necessarily mean the completion of the entire matter. But at least for now, this matter has come to an end. Apart from the hatred nurtured in the hearts of the desert people. If asking exorbitant prices to pay back money is the ability, then the problem that the Tanit tribe is facing now is that it is a classic store bully to look for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. We also need to add some discrimination cultivated by the overall environment. This matter is not surprising at all, so Romo did not ask much. The situation of deserts and rainforests can be traced back to even older times, when seeds were planted, and no one can face this situation. But prejudice and discrimination are actually easy to solve. If you punch him in the face, he will know it hurts and speak well. If you could punch him to death, he would shout "wrong, wrong," and then speak obediently. In this regard, targeting desert people by rainforesters cannot be considered a problem for others. Who asked you to cook? Who made it so big that there weren't even 2 or 3 people willing to speak up? Between 2 hostile forces, the word Kai runs through all the issues. Because you are weak, others can target you without hesitation. Should we rest here for the night or rush back to the tribe as soon as possible? Romo asked casually. Let's take a night off, Asalik said calmly. I'm a bit tired from walking this way, but going back can be much easier. Rest for a night to replenish your spirits, and then return to the tribe as soon as possible. Okay, Romo nodded. As he left, he paused and said, by the way, Tadra, I'm not very familiar with the market outside. How much does the things I just bought cost? Please report to Elder Asalik. Otherwise, when the caravan arrives, the tribe will be completely unaware of this matter, which is not acceptable. He joked, how could someone who spends money not know where it's going? That's a bit comical. 7. Faith Wars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There is no need to make a group of people difficult with one thing. Even without this sentence, Azarig would still ask Tadra. And as a spender, one should indeed know where the money is spent. This matter doesn't have much value to waste energy on, so let's just talk about it directly. At night, Romo stopped his work and had already dismantled most of the alchemy props and placed them on the table. They looked scattered and had to be pieced together by their owners, but they could no longer be restored to their original appearance. What Alice provides is not a high-level alchemy creation. She couldn't personally make these things every day. The items she gave Dolly were only blueprints, and they were items that even ordinary alchemists could make. Materials are relatively common ordinary materials, and there is no need for alchemy levels like Abido. Alchemists with some proficiency can produce them. For Alice, such works are probably entirely meant for children to play with and do not require too many special things. But being able to refine ordinary materials into relatively excellent finished products is the talent hidden within the master. By analyzing these alchemy creations and deducing their blueprints in reverse, understanding their production methods can also bring a significant amount of proficiency to skills. After fully analyzing the alchemy items, you have gained a proficiency of 428 points, Alchemy. LV 3765/10,000. What you need is not to forcefully break through after repeated training, you should find a teacher, or at least obtain enough academic materials. Sure enough, in the early stages of proficiency, spending money can completely solve this problem. The proficiency of skills can usually be improved through learning and innovation. Disassembling someone else's alchemical creations naturally leads to proficiency. Innovation is even simpler. By piecing together known knowledge and producing qualified products, proficiency can also be obtained to improve skill levels. But without a doubt, all of this requires money. When there is a clear return on investment, the cost of something is not its problem, but my problem. Romo shook his head. The price of something fluctuates not only because of its value, but also because of the means of obtaining it. It is obvious that as desert people, they naturally have to pay a greater price to obtain these things. Just like the business they do, even if they only listen to a few words, Romo can probably guess that their goods have been discounted again, and the price they want to buy something has also been raised. Customers do not have much emotional attachment to merchants, and correspondingly, merchants are only doing business, let alone empathizing with customers. This matter is not complicated. I know you are a desert person, and I can squeeze you, so I squeezed you. That's all. The profit of a business is like this: you either reduce costs or raise selling prices. Cost is a concern for merchants, while price is a concern for customers. The reason why Azarid is only angry but doesn't take action is simple and useless. This is Kawanyi. If you are not satisfied with a merchant's price, you can look for a new merchant. But what you are facing is the contempt of the entire rainforest. The whole environment is like this, and there is nothing we can do about it. If a Salig is dissatisfied with the price and wants to make a fuss, the merchant can easily call the 30-man group over. The next thing will be even simpler. The 30-people regiment, backed by the Order Academy, is an official violent organization. Although most of the people here are desert people, they do not fight for the interests of desert people. Because hunting dogs only bite for the benefit of their owners. Faced with the official violent organization of Sumi, Tanit did not possess the ability or consciousness to resist. That's it then. When oppression and discrimination come, everyone remains indifferent, so everyone is squeezed together. But the power of the desert is not really completely dependent, it's just that they are too scattered. Romo stood in front of the table, his expression calm. In front of him was a topographic map of the entire desert, which marked various forces. The tribe does not have such things. This is the investigation and integration he made using small machinery. The vast desert is not only inhabited by the Tanit tribe. The Tanit tribe is also considered a relatively large force in the entire Sand Sea. But this is far from enough. If an individual's difficulties are not related to the group, then the honor or disgrace of the group is also not related to the individual. On the other hand, if an individual is unwilling to bear the honor or disgrace of the group, then the individual's predicament is also a natural thing. Because most of the time, an individual's power is limited. Of course, this is a world where gods exist, and individual power has no limit, but desert people must become a whole. He murmured in a low voice, "How can I put it, I just know these old coins can't really be as foolish as they are portrayed in the plot. There are many villain groups of Genshin Impact, of course, they have their own reasons as villains, which does not matter. Rama will not go to measure why villains become villains. The church, the fools, the three followers, and the Order Academy, among them, the Ministry of Education is the one who plays the cards in his hand the worst. But in dealing with the desert, the 6 wise men of our ancestors did a great job. They accurately rescued some desert people, leaving the current chaotic situation in the desert and never allowing the desert to return to a political power. After the death of King Qi, the royal power of Qi Sha plummeted completely. The desert people are scattered in a tribal form, and they are all enemies with no possibility of alliance. The resources in the desert are already barren, and everyone relies on the same method to plunder and sustain resources. After a long struggle, they regard other tribes as their mortal enemies. Hate blinded everyone's eyes, they forgot that the barrenness of the desert could be alleviated through external expansion, and focused all their attention on this land. But the output of land is limited, and everyone can only rely on slaughter to solve the problem of resources. The cruel argument is that as many people die, resources are naturally sufficient. And killing precipitates hatred. If you kill a warrior from an enemy tribe, his father and brothers will definitely seek revenge for it. Similarly, you are also someone's son and brother. If you die, they will also seek revenge for you. The constant overlap of hatred has caused everyone to die in this cycle. We're only one last step away, Romo looked up. If we can use faith to divide the desert people, we can completely destroy the desert. This process is very familiar to Romo. Divide and disintegrate, support friendly forces, incite hatred, and control the flow of goods. This was a routine means for ancient dynasties to deal with nomadic peoples, only missing the last step of faith warfare. Unfortunately, during that period, the great Compassion Tree King passed away, and after the Little Grass King ascended to power, the wise refused to recognize such a deity. They themselves resist the newly appointed god of grass, so it is naturally impossible to use the god of grass to differentiate beliefs in desert areas. Even in today's Sand Sea, the divine power of the Red King remains stable. This is their arrogance, and it is also where they will lose. There are gods in this world, but these people who serve them have no idea what faith war is. Regarding the previous errors, they were corrected on June 24th. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the title suggests, the issue of timeline. Tanit is a matrilineal social structure that believes in the flower god, and the main mother is the only core of power. After the death of the previous mother.in.law in the Tanit tribe, the tribe adopted the 9 elders system rather than the mother.in.law system. The current timeline is that everything has not yet begun. The hunting order has been implemented for some time, and the dragon disaster is brewing while Ing Mei is still sleeping. Moving forward, after the story of Jed in version 3.1 ended, she went to the Tanit tribe. In version 3.4, she personally killed 5 elders, camp notes, 6 names and 5 were crossed out, and in the records of the fools, Babel cleared a total of 8 elders before completing her final ascension. Cleaning up does not mean killing, it may also be forcing the other party to relinquish power, which is why Marcella is still alive. Yes, out of the 9 elders, Babel should have killed 7. Marcella expressed her submission, and in the end, she was the only one with real power left. Therefore, the mother.in.law system was restored. Later, Marcella slipped ahead of time and ran to the territory of Hualing, while Jetta and the brigade she formed chased after her all the way. That is to say, during this period, Babel was still an elder, and she had not yet started working with the same party to suppress dissent. She was about to cooperate with the fools and seize their technology and resources. Rather than the period when we have already come into contact with it in the later stage, where we have become the main mother and kicked away the fools with one kick, focusing on studying the eternal oasis. This is a habitual mistake that has been corrected. 8 to 2 Directions. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. For a considerable period of time, people have to face a problem. The power of a group is obviously higher than that of an individual, so all people come together to form a tribe, and the tribe goes further, which is the kingdom. The establishment of the kingdom originated from the inability of individuals to resist natural and man-made disasters, so people gathered under a regime to resist external influences with the power of a group. But how to allocate benefits among groups in order to satisfy more individuals is a big question. Of course, this issue has been temporarily resolved. To this day, the pyramid-shaped governance structure still runs through people's social systems. And for the lower class, just ensure that they won't die, and their future considerations will be more in depth. Romo did not consider the issue of distribution. For a long time, he always played the role of accepting assignments. As a scholar of the tribe, he never showed his military prowess, and even the falcon responsible for protecting him, Tadra, never knew the strength of Rama. No one really lacks ambition, even if you don't love power, you should still like the accessories that power brings. When he returned to the tribe, he arrived at Babel's camp. The differentiation of ruling power among tribes is very clear. As a matrilineal social structure, the main mother is the power core of the entire Tanit tribe. After the death of the previous mother-in-law, a group of beings named elders realized the importance of power. They refused to restore the mother-in-law system and ruled the entire tribe with the 9 elders as the core. This is a normal situation where there is only one main mother who enjoys all the power of the tribe. But unlike elders, there can be many elders who enjoy relatively equal rights. So among the 9 elders, many people are unwilling to see a new main mother appear in the tribe. Except for Babel, she doesn't want to share power with others. She wants to become the master mother and enjoy all the power. However, when we think about this matter with our knees, we all know that most other elders will not agree. Power is limited, and Babel's monopoly on power means that they have transformed from the person making decisions to the group obeying power. After gaining power, they naturally do not want to let go. So later on, Babel chose to clean up most of the elders. Dead people will not refute the opinions and claims of living people, and Babel understands the principle that if a problem cannot be solved, the person who causes it will be solved. When you can't solve a person's objections, it's best to let that person disappear with their opinions. In this way, there will be no voices of opposition. Romo plans to start from Babel's side. She is very ambitious. Objectively speaking, it is a wrong choice to seize power from someone who is full of ambition. They view power as everything above their children, parents, and even their lives. If you dare to glimpse her power, she will try her best to kill you. But in the plot, Babel exposed a fatal weakness. She is too weak. When there is weakness as the tone, the ambition of soaring to the top with a swan in the heart can only be described in a simpler way. The heart is higher than the sky, and the life is thinner than paper. Romo. The woman sitting in the chair smiled gently. My child, I rarely see you at this time. Why, do our talented scholars need more help from the tribe? She is too keen. Elder Babel, Romo said calmly, I went to the Kawan Post station and saw the world beyond the sand sea. The land and resources there are abundant, and compared to them, the sand sea is not a suitable place for survival. I know, that's exactly what I want you to see, Babel said with a sarcastic tone. The elders are preventing the children from going to see the new world, fearing that they will despise the sand sea. I have to admit that their views are not unreasonable. But where is this land worth loving? If you feel that the land is barren, then go and seize the fertile land instead of forcing and educating children to love and sing praises of the barren desert. You can love the tribe, but you don't have to love the Sand Sea. This is Babel's idea. Seeing a whole new world should lead to greater ambition. For example, why do they occupy this rainforest, and why can't we be the owners of the rainforest? Romo whispered, is that what you think? Shouldn't I think that way? Babel chuckled, but my dear child, don't express such thoughts. Anything that cannot be done is declared in the mouth, either causing disaster or being ridiculed. And what we really need to do is something that even the gods don't need to know, you just need to do it. Alright, you've always been a smart person and don't need to be taught by your elders. The woman's gaze was burning, tell me what you want. Power. Romo did not hesitate. Normally, I should scold you because power is precious and scarce, and only a few people can control it. Babel said lazily, but fortunately, there are many elders in the tribe who are already old but still hold power and are unwilling to let go. She is telling Romo how to gain power. Let them die. This answer is very in line with Romo's understanding. The elders taught the desert people at the bottom of the tribe to respect their companions and love the tribe. Elders compete with each other at the top of the tribe, vying for power. Always like this, never stop. Just the power of elders is not enough, Romo shook his head. If you can kill them silently, I can support you to ascend, and the price is, I need your loyalty. Babel chuckled and said, but what are you saying now? Do you think this is not enough? Are you looking for my position of power? She laughed and said, or do you want to be my master? The rule of the tribe is actually the rule of the wise men in the diocese, and among the 6 wise men, one of the great wise men holds the most revered position. Among the elders of the Tanit tribe, Babel did not hold much power at this time. Because she comes from a falcon background. Falcons are orphans personally plundered or adopted by tribes, who receive the most rigorous education and training, and live as weapons for elders. Tadra is a falcon, and it will be the same for Rezji and Nalan who will confronting May in the future. This kind of background determines that the upper echelons of power will basically not allow them to hold too much power. A knife is like a knife, knowing how to kill is enough. Why let a knife wield power? Babel's ability to rise to power is truly beyond that of these elders. Power is being peeked at, but Babel cannot generate any anger. It's not because she is tolerant and kind, but because she doesn't want to argue too much with immature but talented children. Although 16-year-old Romo has some academic talent, for Babel, he is still an immature child. He has value, so Babel is willing to give more opportunities. Romo took out the Eye of God from his pocket, the crimson Eye of God shining with a dazzling glow. A Genshin Impact, Babel reached out and took the Eye of the God. You got this thing without anyone knowing it. Why, the gap between the two worlds is so huge that you can't accept it at all, right? She thought that Romo only got the Eye of God after seeing the barrenness of the Sand Sea and the abundance of another world. Of course, this is a bit bizarre. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but the acquisition of the Eye of God is already so unreasonable. Some people are about to go crazy chasing the Eye of God, but in the end, they only achieve nothing. But there are also some people who, even though they don't care about the Eye of God, quietly reach their hands. This is a gift from the gods, and the will of the gods has never required human understanding. No, it was something I had already obtained earlier. Romo's palm flowed with a crimson flame. It's only recently that I've had the ability to solve problems, so it can be exposed. The power to solve problems. Babel murmured softly, if you talk to me in this tone, then you are no longer my child. Whether it's an ally, master, or enemy will depend on your future words and abilities. Romo, what do you think? Involving power, without family ties, there are naturally no children or elderly people. They are all enemies that need to be defeated or even eliminated. Either conquer or be conquered. I will become the master of the tribe and lead it to higher places. Romo took a deep breath. For a long time, there have been scholars and heroes in the desert, but they have left their hometowns and headed towards the rainforest, welcoming a new future. I don't like the barren sand sea either, I like the richness of the rainforest. But I cannot abandon my fellow race. Rama cannot say that he likes deserts but dislikes places with abundant resources and seasons like spring. But not liking the desert and abandoning the people are two different things. Liking the abundant rainforest and ignoring the hardships of the tribe and only seeking one person's future are also two different things. 9. Conquer rather than rule. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Babel said slowly. I am an elder, and I should have encouraged a child's innocent dreams, but as we just talked about the power struggle, I cannot treat you as an ordinary child. The elders of the tribe regained their composure and said, this is a foolish dream, a foolish imagination that you cannot achieve. She could still listen because Romo showed another value. He is first a scholar, and then a Genshin Impact. His two identities bring two values of tolerance. Because Romo had value, his delusions were referred to by Babel as a child's pure dream. If he has no value, the tribe members will only slap him and tell him not to dream. This is not a foolish crackdown on education, but a bloody reality. The elders of the tribe are vying for power with each other, and you want to eliminate those elders who do not follow your orders. Roma sighed and said, but at the same time, you teach the lower-level tribe people that we are all blood relatives and should help and support each other. This is not a conflict. Babel lifted his legs and looked relaxed. Power struggles are between us, but the power we compete for is built on the lower-level tribal people. They are not willing to support us, no matter what the main mother or elders are, they are all illusory things. What do you think is the relationship between tribes for the entire desert? Continued Romo. Enemy, Babel thought thoughtfully, you don't have to continue. She is very clear about Romo's words afterwards. It's nothing more than emphasizing the relationship between deserts and rainforests, emphasizing true hatred. But do you know what hatred is? Babel's face turned cold. In this tribe, everyone has to fight for survival. If your father dies at the hands of a warrior from another tribe, then when you become strong, you must kill the other to dissolve the blood feud. At this moment, the other party's child is also carrying hatred, and he will look forward to an opportunity to take your head away to pay homage to his father. The only way to end hatred is to exterminate everything and let all enemies die. She stood up, because the dead will never act with hatred. You tell them that our difficult life is due to the conspiracy of the rainforest people, and we should unite with other tribes. So how can you quell the hatred of tribes hunting each other for these 500 years? Use your mouth and words, my dear child. Romo's expression remained unchanged. You're in a hurry, elder. Babel's expression twisted for a moment. You. Knowing reason and practicing reason are two different things, Roma said gently. You know I am right, but you cannot follow the right path, so you refute my immaturity and immaturity. It's like, as long as I'm wrong, you're right. A very classic method. When I cannot prove that I am right, I can only mistake you. You're wrong, I'm naturally right against you. So what if you're right? Should what's right be promoted, and what's right be promoted? Babel retorted, you're too young, Romo. This world has never been like this. Above the temple, decaying wood serves as an official, while between the palace and the emperor, birds and beasts feed on wealth. If you run out of money, you can earn more. If you run out of conscience, then you can earn even more. The world has always been like this, it promotes kindness and beauty, but provides more living space for evil and filth. But this is not a reason for people to accept filth and reject beauty. Romo took a deep breath and spoke calmly, if something has always been like this, is it right? Isn't it right to always be like this? Babel flicked her wrist, then only one thing is always right. She couldn't persuade Romo, and even had a tendency to be convinced by him. But fortunately, she has one more thing to convince Romo. When words are not enough, use your fists. According to Babel's philosophy of life, fists are much more effective than words. Words are indeed limited. Romo let out a sigh. This answer is not unexpected at all. In the 500 years since the death of King Aki, there have been capable people in the desert, and no one has seen anyone behind the scenes inducing division and inciting hatred. But if you see it, what's the use of it? He is your enemy who killed your father. Just say whether you want to kill him or not. You carry hatred on your own, why doesn't someone else carry hatred? How dare you ask others to give up their hatred if you are unwilling to swallow your grudges yourself, unwilling to be the first to abandon it and unite with others? Compared to the vague hatred of stirring up discord, the deep-seated blood feud is right in front of us, and the dilemma of plundering resources for survival is close at hand. One cannot see too far into the future. When looking up at the stars, don't forget to lower your head and eat. When you can't even eat enough, you don't have the heart to take care of the stars. There are too many smart people in the world, but being smart is never the key to achieving something. No one can extinguish hatred, elder. Romo shook his head, including me. But power can suppress hatred, and force can temporarily maintain peace among people. And in the future, hope and abundant land will change all of this. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Babel was infuriated and laughed. She would rather Romo hadn't considered all of this, it was a privilege for children. They didn't have to consider everything carefully, and adults shouldn't have such high expectations of children. Even deserts with harsh survival conditions can give children some opportunities. Children are born with the privilege of having the capital to try the wrong path. But adults cannot do it. If adults make mistakes, they must pay an equal price and there is no need to be forgiven. But Romo is not like that. After thinking about hatred, he shook his head and said he couldn't convince a group of people to give up hatred. So he gave an answer. I will put a sword around their necks, and when they fear death and conquest, they will abandon hatred and use it for me. And when I obtain the abundant land of the rainforest, which brings hope and resources to the sand sea, they will completely forget their hatred, and be convinced by the territory and resources I bring. This answer is far more absurd than not considering it. Not considering it's a matter of ability, coming up with such an answer after considering it clearly indicates a problem with the brain. With just one divine eye. Babel restrained his smile. No, we need something else. Romo shook his head, but that's the final answer. You won't succeed, Babel shook her head. Forget it, before you say anything, I think you need more education with fists and sharp edges. This is exactly what I want to show you, mother. Rama respectfully bowed. Something important but not very important, Babel is his foster mother.